smile. Oh, Hanley Mark, the man with the spark. He's got the wisdom, he's got the heart. Pull up a chair, stay for a while. Manly Mark will make you smile. He's got tales that twist and turn, a world of wonders you'll soon learn. Big band swing with a gentle tone. In his company you're never alone. The horns will croon, the rhythm will sway. Mark's got stories to brighten your day. A dash of charm.
Yesterday, July 23rd, 2025, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, stepped up to a White House podium and dropped a bombshell. She pointed the finger at Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, accusing them of orchestrating what she called a treasonous conspiracy in the Russiagate saga of 2016. Declassified documents, she claims, expose a plot to paint Donald Trump as a Kremlin puppet, a narrative she says was manufactured to undermine his presidency before it even began. But here's the question. Is this fiery accusation a legitimate reckoning with the past or a carefully timed distraction? Because let's talk about timing. While Gabbard's waving these documents, the Trump administration is dodging a storm of questions about Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier whose shadow looms large. Epstein's ties to power are no secret, but whispers of his connection to Trump keep surfacing, and the pressure to release those Epstein files is mounting. Is Gabbard's press conference a bold move to expose a deep state plot, or a sleight of hand to shift our gaze from Epstein's orbit? And speaking of Epstein, the plot thickens when we look at his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a media mogul with alleged ties to Israel's Mossad, a web of espionage that raises questions about what Epstein was really up to. Was he just a predator, or was he a player in something bigger? And then there's a bizarre connection to Mother Teresa. Yes, that Mother Teresa, whose questionable alliances with shady figures like Charles Keating and allegedly Robert Maxwell muddy the saintly image we've been sold. So where does this all lead? To a shadowy global cabal. Some say a network of elites with an agenda that's anything but human-friendly. From intelligence games to high-profile cover-ups, the threads we're pulling today might just unravel a bigger, darker tapestry. Buckle up, because we're diving into the deep end. Russiagate, Epstein, Mossad, and the forces that might be pulling the strings behind it all. This is Manly Mark on Midday Madness with Manly Mark. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Midday Madness with Manly Mark. As always, I'm your host, Manly Mark, over here at the, having lunch at the pub, as always. Just waiting on a few buddies to arrive, so that's why I'm here having the conversation with you guys. I'm always waiting on somebody. But let's talk about that intro I just gave. Very, very interesting, if you can believe it. I literally yesterday was talking about how Trump was accusing Obama of being a traitor. And then next thing you know I wasn't even paying attention because I was at home just relaxing. I'm not really on my phone at nighttime when I'm at home. If you ask my wife, she'd say I'm on my phone all the time. Hope she's not watching. Hope she doesn't ever watch. But so I didn't see the fact that Tulsi came out and was releasing all these documents and gave a large press conference. And so when I was driving to work this morning, I was listening to InfoWars again, as I do usually in the mornings. You can catch them at 9, 11, 4. They're on all the time. But I was listening, and they was talking about this press conference that Tulsi gave. And I was surprised because I was like, whoa, that's happening a little quick. Stuff usually doesn't really happen that quick, you know? And so it's no surprise that these things were getting released, right? It's no surprise that I guess Donald Trump's actually doing something. Granted, I am surprised I'm surprised they're saying something about it. But whether or not anything actually comes of it, well, that'll be the question. And we'll talk a little bit of that later, just like we talked about it yesterday. And so I didn't come into today thinking that I was going to have to, I was going to do a little recap of yesterday, but I didn't think that I'd have to do a second episode on essentially the same topic. But it's in the news today. This conference was last night. And so, I'm surprised that, I'm the guy who usually says nothing ever happens. So I'm surprised that something's actually happening. Now, they're blowing up the names in the news, but whether or not this actually leads to people going to jail, we'll see about that. And here in a few minutes, I'll actually play you several minutes of the press conference from Tulsi, because she touches on a lot of the things that we were talking about yesterday, specifically Obama's connection to the whole plot. Oh, it's crazy, because when has a president ever been implicated this deep in something? Maybe they have been, but if they have been, I'm just not sure. I don't know. So it's very interesting about that. And so when we listen to Tulsi, she'll get into the ins and outs, but she implicates Hillary Clinton. She even goes as far as to talk about Hillary's apparent drug use, right? And so it's very interesting to think that someone who was on what they call tranquilizers could have been the president, could have had access to the nuke codes. And you could see Hillary Clinton's influence from being Secretary of State and Bill Clinton's wife. That I don't want to talk about the Clintons because I'm not suicidal, but never mind. But all I'm saying is that her nose ain't clean. And so the fact that he's calling these people out, it's interesting. The fact that Tulsi's calling these people out from the, I guess the White House, the press, I don't know, what do you call that, but that's crazy. And so, yesterday we talked about Obama, his connections. We saw the video. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump to that video of Tulsi, just because I want to listen to it with you guys as well. But just, there's a lot of talking points on that. But just, again, we was just talking about yesterday, if you tuned in, about whether or not Trump would try to convict these people connected. And, it's looking like he might. And so I don't know if you guys caught our morning show, the Feast Me show with Manly Mark, but you missed a good conversation with Feast Me and me, of course, sitting in this seat right here, discussing a lot of things. I think the episode was called, I can't even remember, something, War on Mice and Milk. So you guys check that out. We go live every morning with the Feast Me show with Manly Mark at 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Then here I am at 12 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And if you can stay up that late, wherever you are, you can catch Feast Me himself at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, p.m. And he told me last night, I didn't get to tune in, but he told me last night he got pretty emotional on the show. I'm kind of thinking like, ooh, ugh. You're not going to catch me up here getting emotional. You're not going to catch me up here hooping and hopping. Now, I like to get animated, have a good time, but you're not going to catch me crying a tear. Now, I'm not hating on Phil. Different generation, different mindset. Apparently, he had a great show, so it resonated with a lot of folks, but I want my, my personality and charisma to resonate with you as opposed to my emotions, which I'm not hating on Fee. Different strokes for different folks. And I say that if I was the one who had a vision from God, I might be sitting here being emotional too, telling about it, because I didn't have that vision. So I can't, I guess, even compare that experience. But back on to point, it's crazy that we're seeing something finally unfold. All the folks who think nothing ever happens, myself included, well, they're talking about something maybe happened. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this press conference that Tulsi gave last night. And it's a pretty long video. We won't listen to the whole thing, but we'll listen for several minutes so Tulsi can hit a few high points. So you guys tune into it.
There's irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence Report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous. The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote-unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee.
See, folks, there you have it. I mean, if you can believe it, we finally have somebody doing something about something. And so that's what's interesting to me is that, she was calling out the Obama administration. She was calling out Comey, Clapper, all these folks. And it seems like they might actually do something about it. I don't know. We'll find out. And so, what's the aftermath of this press conference? I don't know. Are they gonna? I don't know what the process or the terms are, but are they gonna suggest or recommend these folks to the Justice Department for indictment? Well, I don't know. We'll find out. If they actually arrest Barack Obama, I'll be surprised. I doubt it. I'll say right now, I don't think it's going to happen, but I could be wrong. And I'm only saying that from I'm only saying that from a place of nothing ever happens. They always wiggle and worm their way out of it. I don't know how, but all these people who always you think they need justice, they always seem to escape. Now, you can't forget that they never escape the justice of the Lord. Sure. So at some point they're going to get that justice. But there's always a group of people who seem to wiggle and worm their way out of justice as it appears on earth. And I'm kind of assuming at this point that it's going to be something like that. But if not, I'll be happy to come on here and say I'm wrong. But I mean, that interview with, or I say interview, but that press conference with Tulsi is actually 3 or 4 minutes long. Or I say 3 or 4 minutes long. That's what I showed you guys. It's actually there were several videos that were like up to 50 minutes long. So it went on a long time. I just showed you guys the intro. So she gets a whole lot deeper into the documents. She gets a whole lot deeper into the reasoning and a whole lot deeper into the proof that the Obama administration and Obama himself and Hillary Clinton were tied deeply and intimately into the undermining of the 2016 campaign of Donald Trump. So, I mean, that's just. I got a warning yesterday on TikTok for misinformation on my Obama accused of treason episode, and it's kind of weird because it's like nothing I said I can't imagine could be taken as misinformation because it was coming from the horse's mouth. I was just playing some Donald Trump video. Maybe they didn't like the fact that I was playing Alex Jones, but I play a lot of Alex Jones because that's who I listen to, and also all of his videos are downloadable. So it's like everything else is usually behind a paywall, but Alex Jones, I can download his videos. So if you see a lot of InfoWars memorabilia on the screen or logos or this or that, that's typically just because his videos are easy and free to download, and they're usually informational. So that's why I use him a lot. But yeah, what's going to happen in the aftermath of this? Will Trump actually try to arrest those involved in this supposedly true conspiracy against him? One could hope, but again, I'm pessimistic about it. We'll see. I bet some people will go to jail, but if they actually try to go after Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, I'll be surprised. But I'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, if they actually did start to go after those people, we talked about this yesterday on yesterday's episode, would they actually, would people put up with them arresting people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama? I don't know. There's enough people who are brainwashed with liberal left-wing propaganda that, like I said yesterday, they might try to burn down the cities. Can you imagine if they put Barack Obama in handcuffs? Somebody's going to try to burn down a building over that. If they burn down the building over George Floyd, who died of a drug overdose, he didn't die of a knee on the neck. I know that's controversial, but just look into it. I mean, it's just look into it. That's not mean. It's not mean. That's not hateful. He didn't die of the knee on the neck. He died from a fentanyl overdose. I hate to say it. But they burned cities down to the ground and rioted and hooped and hollered over that. A man who died of a drug overdose, and a video taken from a bad angle, And so if they were going to arrest these high-level politicians and people over something like this, which, I think it's a big deal, of course, that'd be crazy. I don't know. People loot and riot over sports ball games. They loot and riot over police actions. They loot and riot over anything and everything. So if they At this point, I don't even think it's the people on the ground looting and rioting. They don't care about the moral stance that the movement's taken. They're just looking for an excuse and a reason to do what they already wanted to do, which is loot and riot. I mean, just think about it. If it doesn't take if it's the smallest excuse that gets these folks to commit violence and crime, they wanted to do it anyway. So, I mean, just give them a reason and they're going to do it. So, if they're going to be arresting these folks over the Russiagate, then they're definitely going to be doing it. And this leads us to another topic that we touched on yesterday, but I think it's something we can't ignore, and we talked about in my intro. This seems to all be coming out, right? Very conveniently in the time that the Trump-Epstein connection, Trump denying the Epstein documents, denying the Epstein list, these all seem to be coming out, or all seems to be happening very conveniently, almost like they had it loaded up in the gun, ready to fire, when the Trump administration faced their first real hurdle, which was clearly there have been people talking about the Epstein documents for years, and then Trump to come out and his Justice Department and his whoever, all the FBI, Bongino and Kash Patel to come out and say no client list, no Epstein documents. That's kind of fishy, right? And so some people are suggesting, I don't really know what I think, I don't really know what I believe about it, but some people suggest that this is all just a distraction. And again, the distraction. Why the distraction? Why do we need a distraction? Well, some people suggest it's because Trump's on the list. Some people say it's because Trump doesn't want the United States to be embarrassed when it's revealed that our intelligence agency or intelligence agencies like the Mossad or MI6 are implicated in these documents. I have no idea, but there you have that going too. But you have a lot of people, and this was in the news several years ago. I think it's pretty well documented that Trump flew on Epstein's plane, right? But several people did. That's not necessarily means guilty or not guilty. But now you have people writing articles like the Wall Street Journal saying, "Oh, Trump is implicated in the Epstein files, and that means he doesn't want to release him because of this." Because at first it seemed like a right-wing conspiracy where it was mostly Republicans and right-wing leaning folks who wanted the release of the Epstein documents, because clearly there's probably a lot of Democrats and liberals implicated on the list. But now that Trump's been saying, no, there is no documents, there is no list, you have all these Democrats and liberals jumping on the conspiracy train saying, oh, it's because he's implicated. It's because there's all these Republicans implicated. Yeah. The point is, it doesn't matter where the cards fall, just give us the info. And again, it's fishy that Trump's trying to deny it, or trying to deny the documents exist, or is resistant to releasing them. And so heaven only knows what the truth is in on that. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys an article. I couldn't get the full article because they wanted me to pay or subscribe to the Washington Journal, and I didn't want to do that. So let me just see if I can't pull this up. Yes. The Wall Street Journal. Oh, wrong thing. Trump Epstein. Yep. Wall Street Journal. Bondi also told President at the meeting that Justice decided not to release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography. Oh, this is the wrong article. And the need to protect victims. Okay, well, see, that's a whole different story. And, I really didn't notice that till just right now. But I guess I can go ahead and get into it. Pam Bondi's saying we can't release all the documents because they contain child pornography. Okay, so are you telling me that every single case that contains child pornography, they can't give the evidence because it contains child pornography, that you can censor it, I don't know all the processes they do, but there are cases happening every day where they use these documents that contain child pornography as evidence that prove that people are guilty. But now they're turning around and saying, hey, we can't release these because of the child pornography. Well, remove the child pornography or censor it. It's that simple. So that's a very, very flaky argument. Again, that was the wrong article from the Wall Street Journal, because the Wall Street Journal article that I found earlier, that I guess I screen clipped the wrong one, was essentially saying that the Justice Department or the FBI or whoever told Trump that he's implicated in these files, and so you might not want to release them. Well, just because he's in the files doesn't necessarily mean he's a pervert. Doesn't necessarily mean he's guilty of human trafficking or diddling children. That doesn't mean that. I mean, again, he was on the flight logs, but you also have record of him kicking him out of a party when he was making advances on young girls, and just I think there's even record of him trying to reporting him to the police for his activities, right? So just because he's in the files, it could just be a mention of Donald Trump in the files, but the media is going to run with any inch they can to paint him as being right in there with Epstein. And so that was the wrong article, unfortunately. So sorry about that, guys. But some people, as I said earlier, some people are trying to suggest all of this is a distraction and a diversion from the Epstein connection to Trump. If it is or not, I don't know, but I just think you need to keep an eye on it. You need to be privy to it, and you need to be aware of it, because the stories that we get in the media are all pre-orchestrated. Not that these events aren't happening, but that they give them to us as they want, when they want, how they want, to distort our view or to shepherd and guide our own thinking and thoughts about anything that's happening. And so whether or not this is a distraction, or whether or not this was just the most ideal time to release all the Russiagate conspiracy stuff, I can't tell you. But I'll leave, like I always say, I'll leave that up for you to decide. But I just want you guys to be informed. I want you guys to be in the know. And so we're going to talk more about Epstein. I mean, a lot of people, did he actually kill himself? Trump said a lot of times, like, yeah, he killed himself. Yeah. There was a lot of weird things that surrounded the death of Jeffrey Epstein, from the footage at the time, the security guards, the person they had in his cell with him. Okay, there was even talk about when they wheeled him out of the prison and they had a picture of him, how the earlobe was on the person rolled out on the gurney, looked different than the actual Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. Sounds crazy. I don't know. I don't really buy into those kinds of topics or conspiracies. We can get into them eventually, but you have that working around too. And so there's a whole lot of suspicious things going on with the death of Jeffrey Epstein. He was apparently, I can't remember if he was on a phone call with his brother or hired a new lawyer or talking to someone the day before his death, seemingly excited to get out of prison because he thought he was going to get out in a month or two. So he was looking forward to and planning for life. He was looking forward to and planning for getting out of prison. But unfortunately, he knew too much. And so he killed himself. I don't know, man. Someone who is enjoying and loving life that much doesn't just up and kill themselves. I don't know. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was obviously a predator, a pervert, but he enjoyed life. So I don't know, man. So you can't convince me he killed himself. He was either murdered or he's still alive. You have some people who even suggest he's still alive. But we're going to get into, well, me and Phil talked about this, and I talked about this again yesterday on my podcast, on this podcast, the maybe implications of the intelligence agencies that are involved in the whole Jeffrey Epstein blackmail, child trafficking, human trafficking scandal, okay? And, Phil seemed to not want to believe that these things could be the case, that our own intelligence agencies or the intelligence agencies of our allies, I said Phil, I meant Fee, excuse me, Fee Smee, gonna hit you in the knee. Anyways, that our intelligence agencies couldn't be involved. But Jeffrey Epstein's longtime girlfriend, who's in prison right now, who's offering to give interviews and give all the info, which seems very suspicious. Very suspicious. I mean, the fact they haven't killed her, I don't know. Anyways, you got Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey's longtime associate, girlfriend, confidant. Well, her father, Robert Maxwell, and I can show you a picture of Robert Maxwell. He was, as I stated in my intro, he was a media mogul. And here's a picture of him. Robert Maxwell with, I suppose, probably his wife, and Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, Robert Maxwell, that's the father. He was well-known, rich, powerful, had influence, but he was a well-known intelligence asset, whether that was willingly or that was just by virtue of what he did. He was an intelligence asset, and I'll go ahead and show this clip, not this clip, but this little slide right here, that Robert Maxwell had known connections to the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. He also had known links to the British intelligence service MI6 and the Soviet KGB. These connections are well documented and explored in various biographies and investigative reports about Maxwell. The nature of Maxwell's relationship with Mossad is complex and multifaceted. Some accounts suggest he was a willing collaborator. Oh, I lost my place. Willing collaborator. While others portray him as a useful asset who was manipulated by the agency. The extent of his involvement and the specifics of his activities with the Mossad remain subject to speculation and debate, but his ties to the agency are undeniable. Key points about Maxwell's connection to Mossad. Known collaborator. Maxwell had known links to the Mossad, and his relationship with the agency is well documented. Multiple intelligence ties. He was also involved with the MI6 and KGB. We already read that, but the point is, Jeffrey Epstein's long-term girlfriend and lone associate, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who was a media mogul, Maxwell. Look up early life section on Wikipedia, Maxwell, last name, and he was a media mogul. That'll tell you everything you need to know. But the point being is, he was a known intelligence asset for the KGB, the Mossad, and MI6. His daughter was well tied to Jeffrey Epstein, who in of himself has lots of weird intelligence connections. And it's suspected that Jeffrey Epstein ran all these child trafficking. He had the island, he had the Lolita Express, the plane, to gather blackmail on the world's politicians, the world's elite, the world's celebrities. And so it's not a stretch to assume, because his long-term girlfriend and associate, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was tied and linked to all these intelligence organizations, that probably Jeffrey Epstein's blackmail organization was tied to the, I don't know if it was the CIA, it was probably Mossad. And that's probably why they have this much influence around the world, because, hey, vote for our thing. Look away from this crime. Look away from this bad thing. Whoever's pulling the strings in that, I don't know. But you have the blackmail, you have the power. And then you would say, oh no, how could our own intelligence, or how could the intelligence of our allies do such things? Well, again, I go back to, like I said yesterday, Operation Paperclip, all those war criminals we hired. It was essentially the ends justified the means. So if they have to traffic a whole bunch of children, a whole bunch of people, in order to gain this power over people, politicians, celebrities, world leaders, whoever it is, they're going to do it. The ends justify the mean. They don't really care about individuals. They care about goals and the collective, the operation and the goals of the collective supersede the individual. And so, and that's kind of the point. Not every world leader, politician, celebrity, elite is hooked into the child trafficking thing, right? Some people's drug is money. Some people's drug are drugs. Some people's drugs are children. Some people's drug or whatever else it is. they try to buy you with whatever it is, but it just so happens that there's a very large operation of child trafficking that involves politicians, celebrities, you name it, world elite. I don't know, man. It goes deep, and it's not to sound crazy, but if you wonder how deep it even goes, I can even get into some more of Robert Maxwell's connections. He's even tied to, well, as I said in my intro, Mother Teresa. Here he is. I'm going to show you the picture. Oh, Robert Maxwell, a known Mossad, MI6, KGB asset, whose daughter was linked to Jeffrey Epstein, the famous child human trafficking Mongol, who has all the blackmail and the world elites, with Mother Teresa, who ran several well-known orphanages, homes, and places where parentless children could take refuge. No, nothing ever suspicious going on with the Vatican, huh? And look, I can't sit here because I've got to look more into it and definitely say that Mother Teresa was evil, bad, but she definitely had a lot of shady connections and associates. So make of that what you will, do your own research. But that essentially ties in more to the fact that, okay, well, Robert Maxwell, the Mossad agent, was tied into Mother Teresa, who's tied into the Vatican, who's well known to be some shady organization that, I think Phil thinks that they're I can't remember. You'll have to ask him. When we talked about it, we talked about it on his couch this morning, but essentially that they're the vehicle for the one world government and the one world religion. And the point being is, whatever form that this one world government, one world religion takes is, I believe it's going to be Luciferian and satanic in nature. And so I think these Luciferian and satanic doctrines that you see on the undercurrent of society, civilization, in our symbols, in our media, in our movies, everywhere, in our music, everywhere. I think all of these things point essentially to the fact that it doesn't matter these people's religion. It doesn't matter their politics. It doesn't matter their race. If you are in that certain club, you supersede all of those things. So I think if there is a global child trafficking network that's in part perpetuated by intelligence agencies, I think that there would be a plethora of world leaders, politicians, religious leaders. It doesn't matter. Like I said, those kinds of crimes and Luciferian doctrines supersede those things. So just something to think about. As always, I just like to kind of give my viewers something to think about. And if this stuff that what was happening in the news wasn't happening, we might just be talking about Operation Paperclip some more. Or I like I said, really want to get into Warner von Braun or the space race or the nature of space. And so, guys, it's been a good show. I went a little longer than usual, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will tune in tomorrow, 12 noon, for another episode of Midday Madness with Manly Mark. And I hope you guys will tune in, of course. Let me do a little clicking around. Oh, I hope you guys will tune in, of course, to Night with Fee tonight at 9 o'clock. He's locked, loaded, and ready to go, and we're going to have a good time with everything we do. So hit like, subscribe, share these videos, do everything you can to get the word out that the Feast Me Network is here to stay. The Fee's ready to get his vision out to help people get ready for the end times. We're just here to have a good time. Like Phil always says, Fee always says, we want to be the source of news, current events as they happen, and entertainment. If everything I say is wrong, I at the very least want you to think, that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Something to think about. A new way to think. Anyways, guys, tune in again to Night with Fee tonight at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, and then catch me again tomorrow on the the Feast Me Show with Manly Mark at 9